Next verse.
If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these words would be put to elimination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population. I would thereby destroy the peace of all living.
If I, the supreme among all, were not to perform actions according to scripture, the people would break the laws. I would be responsible for producing mixed castes, resulting from the destruction of law. I, the protector of the populace, Prajapati, would cause contamination of the populace by the mixture of castes. Though I am well known as the foundation of people's respect for law, as the Shruti says, I would become the cause of breaking their respect for law. Okay, so this is an important point. Krishna, of course, it is simply out of compassion that he thinks like this. If he doesn't follow, then everybody would just start doing whatever comes to their mind, and then they'll become Varna Sankaras. That is a mixture of castes, that's a mixture of Varnas. Varna Sankara. Prabhupada. Varna Sankara is unwanted population which disturbs the peace of the general society. Prabhupada explained what a Varna Sankara is. A Varna Sankara has no idea about his Varna. He's just confused. A lot of us are actually Varna Sankaras.
Yes. Nobody knows.
It's not some very complicated rocket science to understand what your Varna is. If you are interested in Brahminical proclivities, and if you have to choose between the 4 different Varnas, you have to choose only one. The one that would make you least dissatisfied. That you have to accept as your primary one. So this requires some kind of self-training. That should be accepted. Not that everything. One thing. If you accept Brahminical standard, accept Brahminical standard. Then you take up the austerity of giving up the taste for lower standards. First of all, the Varnas are graded. It's not that all the 4 Varnas are equally wonderful. The Brahmana Varna is the highest. Kshatriya is lower than that. Vaishya is lower than that. Shudra is lower than that. So that's a gradation of Varna. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati emphasized it. It's a gradation amongst Varnas. Even though we keep saying that whatever may be your Varna, you engage in Krishna service, still we should recognize a gradation. Gradation. We know, like for instance here, track 1 or track 2. Okay, whichever Varna or Ashrama, or you may be a male or female, it doesn't matter. Everybody can attain the highest goal. Starting point is same, ending point is same. But still we should keep in mind there is a gradation. There is a gradation. Prabhupada gave this example, like a train. Starts at one place, ends at one place. But inside the train, there is first class compartment, second class compartment, third class compartment. Okay. So some people, they've only paid for third class compartment. Some other people have paid for second class compartment. Somebody else has paid for first class compartment. So somebody with a ticket for third class compartment, he should not try to enter into first class compartment. So if I am a Shudra by Gunakarma, I should just engage in those activities of those duties I should do in Krishna consciousness. That's the only difference. I should not do it in Krishna unconsciousness. I should do it in Krishna consciousness. That's all. And I should not claim the privileges of a Vaishya or a Kshatriya or a Brahmana who may also be engaging in Krishna consciousness. So if I have entered into a third class compartment, I should not try to go into a second class compartment. But the entire train is moving. Whether I may be in third class compartment, I will also reach the same destination. But in between, I should not do all this mix-up. If I am in first class compartment, I should be in first class compartment. So similarly, if somebody has a Gunakarma of a Kshatriya, you should just be there. Sthane sthita shrutigata manovam. Be a Kshatriya. Be a Kshatriya. Increase in your devotional service. increase in your devotion service, then that's all you progress. That's all. Similarly, if you're a Vaishya, you be a Vaishya. But you increase your Krishna consciousness, progress. Because otherwise it's too much for the body mind. Similarly, we advise ladies, just be ladies. Don't try to become gentlemen. Similarly, gentlemen, we tell them, please don't be ladies. Just be a gentleman. Just follow that. When we progress in Krishna consciousness from Tamoguna, when we come to Rajoguna, then we actually start liking the concept of following a particular situation. Men should follow their Varna and Ashrama duty. Women should follow their Stri Dharma duty. And then we come to the mode of goodness, where we think about spiritual realization. Then we come to transcendence, where we think of Uttama Bhakti, your devotion service to Krishna. Okay, so Varna Sankara is a complex problem. In order to check the social disturbance, there are prescribed rules and regulations by which the population can automatically become peaceful and organized for spiritual progress in life. When Lord Krishna descends, naturally he deals with such rules and regulations and necessity of such important performances. The Lord is the father of all living entities. And if the living entities are misguided, indirectly the responsibility goes to the Lord. Therefore, whenever there is general disregard of regulative principles, the Lord himself descends and corrects this society. So this is the general principle. Sri Balaji Vijayabhushan has something to add here. Okay. Though the Lord teaches in this way, we also see that the Lord sometimes acts independent of the law, desiring happiness for his devotee. So out of his Bhaktavatsala nature, out of his Bhaktavatsala nature, out of his affection for his devotee, sometimes he does things which are not in line with, which appears to not be in line. It's not that Krishna never breaks dharma. He cannot break dharma also. But he does things that appear to be breaking dharma. Such actions, however, are not to be performed by those inferior to the Lord, since they have no instructions to do so from the establisher of the law, and are supposed to be obedient to his order. So the point is, Krishna did not instruct that you should imitate me. For instance, Krishna may engage in the rasa dance, but that doesn't mean that we can engage in the rasa dance. He can make his own wife appear as if she is not his wife, and then relish the pleasure of enjoying somebody else's wife, even though she is actually his own wife. He can do things like this. But these kind of things we cannot do, no? Even for the rasa dance. In their bodies, all the young gopis are there with their so-called husbands at home. It's only in the form of their original spiritual bodies they are coming to dance. Now, there is no dharma that can prevent you from dancing with the jivatmas. You cannot dance with somebody else's wife. But if that somebody else's wife is actually in her own home, serving her own husband, and so on, you're only dealing with the jivatma separately through some mystic power. Then that is not considered, that is not breaking. So Krishna always appears to give the impression of doing something else. It's called Vibhrama Vilas. In Brahma Samhita it comes. Yes?
In the first chapter, Shastri should destroy the directly Varna Sankara. Here Krishna is saying Sankara said Krishna is the Krishna follows the way and
Ultimately,
both have Varna Sankara.
Yeah. One by one, there are different ways by which people can become Varna Sankara. When women become unchaste, that is one way you can produce Varna Sankara population. If the leaders stop following, that's another way you can have Varna Sankara population. There are many ways you can produce Varna Sankara population. Ishwaranam vachas satyam tathaiva acharitam kvachit tesham yatsva vacho yuktam buddhimams tat samacharet. The statements of the Lord's empowered servants are always true, and the acts they perform are exemplary when consistent with those statements. Therefore, one who is intelligent should carry out their instructions. Naitat samachare jatu manasapihya nishwaraha vinashyat yacharan maudhya yatha rudro dhijam visham. One who is not a great controller should never imitate the behavior of ruling personalities, even mentally. If out of foolishness, an ordinary person does imitate such behavior, he will simply destroy himself, just as a person who is not Rudra would destroy himself if he tried to drink an ocean of poison. Lord Shiva never tells others, all his devotees, you also drink an ocean of poison. That's not his instruction. So, when the activity of an empowered person or a powerful Vedic authority, when his instruction is when his activity is in line with his instruction, then that's okay. Like Krishna teaches Bhagavad Gita, he teaches Uddhava Gita. Okay. Krishna also does many things he does. So if you say Yad Yad Acharati Shrestha, whatever the Lord does, he is an established authority, I can also follow. But you have to carefully examine whether it is in line with his own instructions. His instructions will be in line with Shastra. The principle is any activity which is followed by a great personality in line with Shastra, that you should follow. So now Krishna performs activities out of his affection for his devotees. He performs various activities that seem to be not in line with dharma. Those activities we should not try to implement. We should, however, note carefully that although we have to follow in the footsteps of the Lord, we still have to remember that we cannot imitate him. Following and imitating are not on the same level. We cannot imitate the Lord by lifting Gauranga hill as the Lord did in his childhood. It is impossible for any human being. We have to follow his instructions, but we may not imitate him at any time. One should simply follow the instructions of the Lord and his empowered servants. Their instructions are all good for us, and any intelligent person will perform them as instructed. However, one should guard against trying to imitate their actions. One should not try to drink the ocean of poison in imitation of Lord Shiva. We should always consider the position of the Ishwaras, or those who can actually control the movements of the sun and moon, as superior. Without such power, one cannot imitate the Ishwaras who are super powerful. Lord Shiva drank poison to the extent of swallowing an ocean. But if any common man tries to drink even a fragment of such poison, he will be killed. There are many pseudo-devotees of Lord Shiva who want to indulge in smoking ganja, marijuana, and similar intoxicating drugs, forgetting that by so imitating the acts of Lord Shiva, they are calling death very near. Similarly, there are some pseudo-devotees of Lord Krishna who prefer to imitate the Lord in his Rasa Leela or dance of love, forgetting their inability to lift lower than them. It is best, therefore, that one should not try to imitate the powerful, but simply follow their instructions. Nor should one try to occupy their post without qualification. There are so many incarnations of God without the power of the Supreme Godhead. 25.
As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment for the sake of leading people on the right path.
Though you are established in knowledge as a Parinishthita Bhakta, perform your duties according to the Vedas for the benefit of the people. That is the import of this verse. So in other words, there are those who are not realized souls. These are ignorant people. Then there are those who are realized souls. So for the benefit of the ignorant souls, the realized souls also must carry out the instructions that are beneficial for the ignorant souls. So it's not that because we are realized we should, and we don't have a dependency of karma, we can just leave it. We should always be conscious of this. If I don't do it, then others will also do, then it will become a big trend. And then it's very difficult to reverse the trend. Because naturally, everybody is inclined for adharma. Adharma, there is a natural gravity towards adharma. And anything higher, people are not inclined to. So at the earliest given opportunity, even spiritual practitioners will become attracted to adharma. You just need to give them some philosophical justification and they'll love it. Immediately jump for it. So it's very, very serious that all of us who are functioning in the role of a leader, whether we like it or not, we have to do things properly. Those who are temple residents, those who are functioning as brahmanas, those who study Shastra, those who worship the deity, all of these personalities have to be very, very strict. Unless we are strict, we cannot do good to others. It's very, very important. Only difference, they may perform, the ignorant people may perform the material duties with the materialistic spirit. We also have to perform the same duties as appropriate, but with a spiritual motive. We cannot change and start creating innovations, and that is very, very dangerous. Just as the ignorant perform karmas with attachment over Bharata, the learned to teach the people should perform karmas without attachment. Therefore, the karmas of the learned and ignorant are not different. Know that only the strength of their attachment or non-attachment is different. So the external activity is the same. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as a Grihastha, he carries out his Grihastha duties the way non-devotees were carrying out their duties. Similarly, brahmachari, similarly, ladies, similarly, vanaprastha, similarly, sannyasis. Everybody has to follow the duties identically. It's not that the duty is different. A Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not conducive to development of Krishna consciousness. He may even act exactly like the ignorant person who is too much attached to material activities. But one is engaged in such activities for the satisfaction of the sense gratification, whereas the other is engaged for the satisfaction of Krishna. Therefore, the Krishna conscious person is required to show the people how to act, how to engage the results of action for the purpose of Krishna consciousness. So this becomes very prominent once one comes to the second stage of Bhakti, Pradhanibhuta Bhakti. That is the reason that why they accept following all these mundane rules, material rules, Varna duty, Ashrama duty, or for women duties of women, Sri Dharma, material only. But if we don't follow, then others will not follow. Those who are meant to progress in track one, they will not follow. Then everybody is all following, it becomes hell only. That's it. Text 26.
न बुद्धि वेदं जानेत अज्ञानं कर्म संज्ञानं जोषयेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् समाचर. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duty, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness.
Moreover, the person in knowledge desiring the benefit of the people should act with attention. Though a person may be fixed in knowledge, Paranishtita Bhakta, he is a Vidvan, he is learned. In Vedanta philosophy, knowledge means realized knowledge in general. So the person has realized knowledge. He should not disturb the intelligence of the ignorant, who out of foolishness have faith in karma, material duties. First of all, that too in Kali Yuga, the number of people who are interested in karma or their material duties as taught in the Vedic scriptures, that itself is somewhat rare. So if the person has some faith in that, we should not simply go to them and say, oh, what is this useless? Why are you doing this thing? This is all not needed. Chant Hare Krishna, Hari Bo. Not like that. Because if you have not come to track 3, you cannot so easily criticize the material duties involved in karma. That is very, very wrong. One should not do that. He should not disturb the minds of those fixed in karma by saying, what is the use of these duties? Attain success just by jnana, like me. Just focus on these jnana activities. See, they're all spiritual. You can, like, for instance, celibacy. Those 21 items are there. Actually, it would be good to get a printout of that also. Those 30 common duties. I'll make a 5. That's important. Rather, engaging himself in all prescribed actions attentively, performing all the components or angas till completion with affection, he should engage the ignorant in all their duties prescribed by scripture. If he disturbs their intelligence, then they will lose faith in performing duties and also will not attain jnana or spiritual realization. Thus, they will lose on both fronts. However, it is also said, a pure devotee who is fully accomplished in the science of devotional service will never instruct a foolish person to engage in fruitive activities for material enjoyment, not to speak of helping him in such activities. Such a devotee is like an experienced physician who never encourages a patient to eat food injurious to his health, even if the patient desires it. This statement of Ajita, however, should be applied only to those persons who are already not attached to karma. In other words, a person is moving in track 2 or track 3. Okay, he can be moved, you can upgrade him to the second stage of bhakti. But the person, he just has a little bit of a weakness of heart, and therefore is attracted to these material duties. So for such a person, a pure devotee will not tell him, okay, go on doing it and gradually through track 1, he will not talk like that. He will simply say, what is all this Maya? Come on, you should just spend more time in Krishna consciousness to progress. You will do that. But if the person is not capable of going through track 2 or track 3, then you should not use this verse in Bhagavatam 6th canto that Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan quotes and tell them that no, it's also an inferior thing. Why you are going so slow? That is, slow progress is better than no progress. No? Slow progress is better than no progress. So they're doing something, let them do. Don't go to them and simply say that no, it's just karma. Sarvadharman Vaidhyakshama. Come on, you should progress. Why you are doing all these material duty? No, that material activity, if you engage in them in a careful manner, under the guidance of more advanced devotees, it will gradually help you in progress. It will give you jnana and vairagya, which are favorable for development in bhakti. So one should be also careful. One should not unnecessarily harass that person. I want someone to read the Prabhupada's purport here.
That is the end of all living people. All rituals, all performances must sacrifice, and everything that is put into the religion, including all ways and formative activities, are meant to understand Krishna, who is the ultimate goal of life. That because the innocent souls do not know anything beyond their activity, they study the Veda reality. But since future activity and then realization, regulated by the very rituals, one is gradually elevated to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, realize so in Krishna consciousness do not destroy others in their activity for understanding, but these should act by showing how the result all the time dedicated to the service of Krishna. The learned Krishna person may act in such a way that they acknowledge that is working for them like person may learn how to act and how to do it. Although the ignorant man is not to be destroyed with activities, the slightly developed Krishna person may directly relate in terms of the law without waiting for other ways of the law. For this fortunate man, there is no need to follow the way of the because by great Krishna consciousness, one cannot all the results one would otherwise derive from following one's prescribed duties.
So if a person is fortunate enough to develop a desire, conscious desire to move fast in Krishna consciousness, and is willing to do all the sacrifice needed for that also, then you should not push him towards activities which will slow down the process. But if the person is not so fortunate, then we should not disturb his mind. Text 27.
Things themselves play the role of activities which are naturally carried out by nature.
Though both persons are equally engaged in action, the difference between the person in knowledge and the person in ignorance is expressed in 2 verses. Okay. Regarding the ignorant person. The ignorant person thinks he is the doer of all actions, whether non-prescribed or prescribed by the Vedas, which are in fact performed by the products of the Lord's Maya in the form of the body, senses, and pranas, life airs, impelled into action by the Lord. The following should be understood by determining the intention of the statement. The Jivatma, with a body made of knowledge, consciousness, has a sense of fire and is actually the doer, but overcome with impressions of enjoying material sense objects from beginningless time. He is embraced by Prakriti, who is situated next to him, and who is the cause of his pleasure. The true false ego, a product of Prakriti, he becomes bewildered, devoid of knowledge of the self, thinking himself to be a material body. He then thinks that the activities which are accomplished by the Lord and the material body, senses and life airs are being done only by himself. The doership of the Atma is only made possible by the body, senses and life airs and by the Paramatma, who is the activator of all things. The Jiva is not the only factor. That the Jiva thinks that he is the only doer is a result of bewilderment from false ego. This is understood from 3 verses in the 18th chapter, starting with 18.14. The verse 13.21 describes Prakriti as the doer through the body and senses, but it is not possible to consider that Prakriti is the only doer, because one must accept that Prakriti comes into action only by contact with the Lord. Therefore, it will be explained later that the doership of the Lord can never be rejected. It's a very detailed subject that will come back to us. In 13th chapter, 14th chapter, we'll come back to this. Who is responsible for the accomplishment of that activity? Actually, Prakriti is involved. Jiva is involved. Ishvara is also involved. Everybody has his role to play.
5 things.
Total there are 5, but within that, if you look at the Ishvara, Prakriti, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, Karma, if you look within that, you can analyze it like this also. All the 5 are involved. Even the 5 subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, all of them are also involved. Or if you look from the 18th chapter, the 5 causes of body. Adhisthana, Tathakarta, Karanam, Chitta. There also you will find a list of 5 causes. So in other words, I am not myself alone. Suppose I worked hard, I became rich. It's not just because of me. It is because of the body and the senses and the intelligence that I have, which is given by Prakriti. And Prakriti will not work unless the Supreme Lord gives sanction. So the Supreme Lord is also responsible for that. My own karmic reactions are there. I have done some previous karmic reactions that are favorable for me. If my karmic reactions are unfavorable, I will not be able to attain such. I will not be able to become a rich man just with a small endeavor. So I'm also one of the persons responsible for it. My current endeavors, my past endeavors. So that is also. But this person who is ignorant, he does not understand all that. He thinks, no, I am the one. I am the one. Ahankara mudhatma kartaham iti manyate. I am the one. I'm the one. Other than me, there's nobody else who's actually bringing about this difference. Here about difference between the person in knowledge and the person with no knowledge, though they are the same and performing karmas. Bound to material prakriti by ignorance, the jiva under bewilderment of or illusioned by material ahankara thinks that all the actions which are actually performed by the gunas of prakriti and by the supervision of the Lord are performed by him only, or his own actions. He thinks, I am the doer of all these actions. This is a quality of the person with no knowledge. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he is a doer of everything. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is a symptom of his nescience, ignorance. He does not know that this gross and subtle body is a creation of material nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna and Krishna consciousness. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishikesha, or the master of the senses of the material body. For due to his long misuse of the senses and sense gratification, he is actually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. In other words, the ignorant has no sense of how he is connected with Krishna. Krishna has no role in his life. He is absolutely ignorant. It's like a child inside the womb of the mother. If the child thinks, I am fully independent, that's a joke. Everything about the child is given by the mother. First of all, the child's very body is because of the combination of the father and the mother. So, like that, all conditioned souls, we are actually dependent on Prakriti. We are also dependent on the Supreme Personality of God, the seed giving Father. There is a whole setup which is being maintained. Our current experiences is just a tip of the iceberg. The vast majority is coming about because of a huge queue of karma. It is that karmic reaction that is pushing us from the background. Our current small little endeavor, that is a vyaja, that is a pretext, because karmic reactions will not come without a pretext. For instance, I'll give an example. There is in the Ramayana we come across, before Ram is born, there is a young prince named Dasharatha. He goes for hunting. And while hunting, he unnecessarily, see, this is why this is all problem. Animal killing will lead to some unnecessary mistake, which will create a big blunder. He goes for hunting and he shoots one son of a rishi. So then his father curses him.
Prabhu, his father.
So his father curses him. Correct, no? Father curses him, no?
Yes.
Father curses him. He's a blind, father and mother are blind. So the father curses him, saying that you will experience the same misery that I am experiencing. Curses over. It's a very serious curse because he was a Vaishnava, he was a realized Vaishnava. Because it's a very serious offense. When you engage in extreme sinful activity, the results are experienced in that very life. By default, the reactions for sinful activities are experienced next life. The reactions for pious activities are also experienced next life. But exalted pious activity or exalted sinful activity, you have to experience it in one life. So this is a very exalted sinful activity because that person was also a devotee of the Supreme Lord. We learned that from various sources. Okay. So then he said, you are going to experience same difficulty. Scroll forward. He gets married. One of his queens is Kaikeyi, young lady, very attractive. She's the wife that he's most attracted to, his favorite wife. Ram is born. Everybody likes Ram. Everybody likes Ram. Dasharatha has many wives, out of which he has 3 queens. All of them, they love Ram more than their children or other relatives. So then Kaikeyi also likes Lord Ramachandra. But now that curse is there, the curse has to take effect. Now this itself is an elaborate drama arranged by the Lord to teach us that we should not engage in any simple activity. Because everything in Lord Ram comes to teach us that we should never touch adharma. This is the most important lesson we can learn from Lord Ramachandra. So then time goes. Ram has to be coronated. The public want it. The king obviously wants it. He has already won Sita. He's already killed the Rakshasa. He's already a big name. Everybody likes it. Kaikeyi likes it. Kaushalya likes it. Sita Devi likes it. Everybody likes it. About to be coronated. Right at that time, Manthara enters into the scene. And she convinces Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi actually doesn't like Manthara's idea. But Manthara somehow poisons her, saying that Bharata will get into trouble. So now Kaikeyi got the virus into her head. And she thinks that no, Bharata should be the next heir apparent. He should be the Yuvaraj. He should be the crown prince. So he goes. And so she forces Dasharatha. And Dasharatha is forced to send Ram away. If this incident did not happen, there is no way for him to have the experience of the result of that curse. So, previous pious activities or previous sinful activities, when they have to take effect, it takes effect through some activity. Now, Dasharatha's attachment to Kaikeyi caused it. It's not that Dasharatha is like a Sitapragya and then suddenly something happens and he's separated from his son and he feels bad. It's not like that. There's a particular mechanism So when we engage in pious activities also, it is due to varied causes, the whole system behind it. So we cannot think that, oh, it is only because I did this, it's only because I did that. There are so many reasons why we are suffering various miseries or we are experiencing various forms of happiness. And it is very important to always remember the big picture, big picture. But those who are not so spiritual, they will not have this kind of understanding. So when they don't have this kind of understanding, then you should not go to them and say that it's only third class activity. Karma is third class. Bhakti is first class, Jnana is second class, Karma is third class. Why are you interested in third class activity? They give a third class activity, they'll engage in fourth class activity. They'll engage in adharma and go to hell. So we should not go to them and start talking all these things. I had one friend who was a brahmachari and who wanted to get married. And then he had put on white, and there was one elderly lady who helps him. There are several ladies in Mayapur and other places who help in this kind of matchmaking. So when he went to meet that lady, one of the first questions she asked was, what is your marriage karma like? There is something called a marriage karma. Our birth, our marital experience, and our death is already determined from past life. How we are going to take birth, how we are going to die, and what will be the quality of your marriage experience. This is already, we ourselves have written our destiny. We only create the horoscope. Horoscope because of us. We only create. It's not some XYZ is writing my fate. I am writing my fate. So she asked, well, how is your marriage karma? And he said, why I'm not? Then they did some check, and it turned out that his marriage karma was not good. So she said, okay, then I will not look for a girl for you. Go away. And he became very disturbed. I want to get married. So then another married friend of mine, he was telling me, and that lady has made a mistake. She should not have done this. Yes, she's an elderly lady. She's also spiritually realized, but she doesn't understand. It's just a young man. He wants to get married. When people want to get married, they're like Shastri. So no matter what you say, it will not mean anything. Wants to marry, when you want to marry, that's all. You don't produce the right girl, you'll marry the wrong girl. Some or other, that's all. So when people are obsessed with some material desire, that's not the time to speak philosophy, because they're not going to accept philosophy. They'll find some way. So the best thing that can be done is within their realm, you push them to do their material prescribed duties. If you carefully examine, Krishna has got something for tamasic people, something for rajasic people, something for sattvic people. He's got something for everyone. Karma, these material duties, takes tamasic people and moves them up to Rajavan. Jnana takes rajasic people and moves them up to Sattvavan. And then Bhakti is meant for previously, in the previous yugas, those who had come to the mode of goodness, they were the ones who were focusing on Vishnu Bhakti. Because also they graduated, their minds are a little bit more clear, they're not confused. Okay, let's move on. Next verse.
Mhm.
28, no?
28.
One who is in knowledge of the absolute Almighty Arm does not engage himself in the senses in such reality, knowing well the differences between work of devotion and work of true diligence.
He knows that the senses inspired by the devatas reveal the sense objects, and knows that he is different from the sense objects because of his being the bliss of spiritual consciousness. He does not identify with them. By similarity, knowing that he is not the agent for manifesting those sense objects, he consequently has no attachment to them. So this is exactly how a person in the second stage, he will think. Even though he's engaged in material activities, when he is carrying out his material duties, he understands from the philosophical point of view. He understands the jiva has a certain developed understanding, that particular divinity. O mighty Am, the wise person, distinguishing material gunas and karma from the Atma, does not associate with them. He thinks I am different, bound in Prakriti by some event. I am performing actions by karma and gunas of Prakriti. O mighty Am, the wise person, knowing the nature of gunas and karma, he in all action thinks I am Atma, a swarupa of consciousness and bliss. I have accepted material actions, being bound by material ahankar due to mistaking my swarupa. I am actually a pure Atma and do not perform these actions, but by the upadhis, material designations of the senses and material ahankar, false ego, I perform material actions. I am not the sole doer. Thus, he is not attached to those actions. The three doers in all material actions are the jiva who thinks he is the body, the prakriti, and the paramatma who is the regulator of all beings. So he has a much more mature understanding of the entire situation. In his pure state of existence, he is meant to dovetail his activities in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. He therefore engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to the activities of the material senses, which are all circumstantial and temporary. He knows that his material condition of life is under the supreme control of the Lord. Consequently, he is not disturbed by all kinds of material reactions, which he considers to be the mercy of the Lord. According to the Srimad Bhagavatam, one who knows the absolute truth in three different features, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Tattvavid, for he knows also his own factual position in relation with the Supreme. Vadanti, that Tattvavidas. Tattvavidas means the Tattvavids in plural. Text 29.
Bewildered by the forms of material nature, they never fully engage themselves in the material activity and become attached. If the wise should not unsettle them. Although these duties are inferior to the performers lack of knowledge.
This verse concludes the ideas presented in verse 26. Those who are bewildered by false ego, which is a product of Prakriti, those who think the body to be the self, in the manner of a person possessed by a ghost, become attached to the actions of the body and senses. So, in other words, according to Sri Baladev Vidya, these people are like Bhuta Vidvan. They are like ghost hunter. Just Vishnu Chakravarti gives the example. If somebody is say somebody is possessed by a ghost, even if hundreds of times you keep telling them, hey, you are not this ghost, you are not this ghost, you are not this ghost. The ghost inside you wants to eat all these funny things, but this is not you. Don't listen to this ghost, don't listen to this ghost. Hundreds of times you tell also, it means nothing. But instead, if you use appropriate mantras, herbs, medicines, and so on, you get a qualified exorcist, then he can remove that ghost. So like that, there's no point in simply telling these people that, this is wrong, this is inferior, this material, what? Whatever you say, they will not understand. You should not desire to make such persons understand the truth by saying you are not the actions of the body and senses. You are the bliss of pure consciousness. Rather, you should desire to arouse their interest in the Atma through engaging them in a succession of Vedic duties, following their taste for action. Bewildered persons, bewildered person not understanding this, think themselves to be Prakriti and become related to gunas and karma of Prakriti. The knower of truth does not uselessly disturb these foolish persons having little knowledge. After making them qualified gradually by Vedic Karma Yoga, the knowers of truth will then give them the knowledge of the truth situated with higher qualification. So, When they become qualified, then they are capable of understanding. Until then, they will not be able to understand. They are manda, dull. Ignorant men think of the body as a self. They accept bodily connection with others as kinsmanship. The land in which the land is obtained is their object of worship. And they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be ends in themselves. This is based on a 10th canto of Bhagavatam verse. Social work, nationalism, and altruism are some of the activities for such materially designated persons. Under the spell of such designations, they're always busy in the material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and so they are not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life as non-violence and similar material benevolent work. Even though this is Lord Krishna's instruction here, still, men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men, to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. So, even though it's a fact that these people don't understand the value of Krishna consciousness, still following the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna, who's overcome by the mood of Srimati Radharani, the topmost devotee. He wants to go to the non-devotees and attract them to take to the highest form of spiritual life. So this is the eternal challenge of those who are dedicating themselves to spread Krishna consciousness. 30? Yes.
So the difference between the verses 26 and 29 in what? 26 verse is for the karma practice, and 29 verse is for the
Karma can't be done. No. Because what he can do? Nothing he can do with the recognition person. Because the person is telling to follow karma, he will simply commit more and more scriptural offense against the Vedic scriptures. Actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has pointed out those who are somewhat contaminated, they can be engaged in karma yoga. But those who are absolutely contaminated, they cannot be engaged in karma yoga. They're unfit. People who have tamasic taste will never accept Rajoguna. So then what is the hope for them? So he says the hope for them is only Kevala Bhakti. And he cites the example of Mrigari. That Mrigari, there was one psycho who used to relish half-killing animals. And what did Narada Muni do there? He did not do some follow your government duty, ashram duty. What a psycho. Crazy people. So these kind of lazies and crazies, they are unfit for this activities of material duties. Many times I think in today's India, we just need to preach Kevala Bhakti. Otherwise they cannot follow. Neither the men nor the women. They are all so disturbed.
Because people don't understand, just to prepare for them.
Basically just engage in Panchanga Bhakti, that's all. It will be irregular only. Their engagement will be irregular. What you can expect, tamasic people. But there is no other way for them. So you see how Prabhupada's formula. Prabhupada simply wanted them to engage in devotion service. That's all. But the problem is when they start saying, no, but I'm a human being. I have human needs. And human being, human needs means you have to follow material dharma. You have to follow karma dharma. Karma dharma, but you have probably 0.1% taste. Because it's all, you can only do like this, you can only do like that. A woman has to be respectful to her husband. Man has to love his wife. Some unknown person actually. Because in Vedic system, then there is varna duty, that's one set of headaches. Then there's ashrama duty, another set of headaches. It's just everywhere there are rules. You turn this side, they have say, no, you don't do that. You turn that side, then they say, oh, no, but you cannot do like that. Hey, anyway, you cannot, because when they talk of human being, they're talking of tamasic human being. That's all. I do whatever comes to my mind. No sense of restricting. Because in Vedic Dharma, everything is regulated. There are daily duties. There are occasional duties. There are periodical duties. There are optional duties. It's just duty, 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 duty. In Tamoguna, you don't think of duties. In Tamoguna, you think of right. I can do this. I can. Whereas in Rajoguna, Sattoguna, you think of duty. Because in duty, it's what I am supposed to do. Right means what the world is supposed to do for me. Whereas in the moment you accept Vedic Dharma, it's your duty. You do your part. The other person doesn't do his part. Fine. The demigods will bless you in next lifetime. Don't worry. Be patient. You are a good person. You have taken care of your mother and father. You have taken care of your children. They did not reciprocate happily. Doesn't matter. Everything is being recorded. Everything is being recorded. Next life, we will give you far better family. Everybody will listen to you. Don't worry. In that way, things work out. But this tamasic people cannot get it now because they think that life is short. Enjoy it as much as you can. It's just a Coke advertisement. Just enjoy. So they don't, that is why they are called ignorant. They don't even understand karma vipaka, how your activities mature. Forget spiritual realization. They don't understand material realization also. Nothing they understand. They're simply there like animals there. They are animals who are somehow Homo sapiens. That's all. So that's all. But, so they cannot follow all these things. So these people, if at all they somehow they can be engaged in Kevala Bhakti, that is the best that can be. But if at all they start talking, and then they start talking about all kinds of other things, then it becomes a big problem. See, here Vishnu Chakravarti, Nahi Bhuta Vishnu Manushya, Natvam Bhutaha, Kintu Manushya Eva Iti Shatakritva Epi Upadeshena Na Swasthya Mahapadyate. A man who has been overwhelmed by a ghost, haunted by a ghost, even if 100 times you instruct him, you are a human being, you are not a ghost, he will not become healthy. Kintu tan nivartaka, aushadha mani mantradi prayogenaiva. Rather, you need to apply the appropriate type of medicine, jewel, mantras, and so on, which will remove the ghost. This is the way you have to deal with these people who are overcome by all these ideas.
Just to go to similar 26 and 29. Please just repeat it.
This is a conclusion, yeah. Now Buddhi Vedam Janayadityeta Upasamharati. It's no concluding. It's concluding. Sometimes while concluding you repeat. Sometimes you repeat. That statement about very interesting statement. Because devotional service is anybody can execute it. It is Jaiva Dharma. It is the duty of the Jivatma. And we are all Jivatmas. Whereas karma, Varnashma Dharma, everybody cannot do it. You need to have a certain type of subtle body in order to be capable of following. Otherwise, you'll find it unbelievably distasteful. Even in ISKCON, we can see so much. We tell them to attend Mangalarti, they will do. Tell them to chant more, they will do. Kirtan Mela, they will attend. Everything they will do. You tell them to study Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti, that also they will. When you tell them they have to stick to your wife has to be obedient to husband, they cannot handle. Simple, ordinary Sri Dharma, Grihastha Ashrama Dharma, they cannot handle. No taste. Tamoguna. Just Tamoguna. In Rajoguna, they are not like that. Rajoguna is discipline. No, there's a high degree of devotional content in it. Navavida Bhakti is actually an activity of the soul, whereas karma has to be executed with a particular type of subtle body configuration. It requires a certain type of discipline. The mind has to accept it. And accept means not accept for a few days, few weeks, few months, few years. Accept it. all capitals, accepted. That's it. So that involves something very big. That is a big thing. Therefore, Ramanujacharya says, karma, first of all, preliminary to karma, you need to, there is something called cleanliness, shaucham, principles of cleanliness. Without that, you will not become fit to follow Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma, Sri Dharma. Even in, we saw in that Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto also, no? Prabhupada says, first of all, a human being has to be trained in these 30 common duties. Then he becomes a human being. Among such human beings, the process of Varnashrama Dharma should be introduced. Then you come across Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma, Sri Dharma, all that. So I generally say, before you start talking about what women should do in ISKCON and all that, first of all, talk about 30 duties. Let us first of all get the basics clear. First of all, it is bhakti. Without bhakti duties, you will not be able to execute jnana duties. First 9 duties, then 21 duties, then you start talking about Varna duty, Ashrama duty, duties for women and all that. So everything goes step by step. So it has to be done very carefully. At any rate, our first priority should be devotion service. Without that, they cannot, nobody can follow.
Well, like the husband is unjust, so that is from the previous life, previous note, like.
See, when we engage in pious activities, that's a basic formula from the Upanishads. Punyena punya, papena papa. I engage in pious activities. I get reactions to that, but I also develop a taste for that activity. When I engage in sinful activity, I get a reaction for that, but I also develop a taste for that activity. So in this life, even small babies, children, you will notice that they have particular propensities. This is all coming from past life, from past activities. They've engaged in some activity which has caused that taste. For instance, a small child is asking for meat. Never ate meat in life. Asking for meat. Where is it coming from? It's coming from past life. So, like that, we develop these tastes. So, if a man has a taste for sinful activity, definitely it's coming from past life. He might have
an example in family. He was telling whatever previous he was not a devotee, so whatever it is from Bengal only. He was telling whatever they tried to give his small daughter non-vegetarian food, he rejected it. They tried anyway, he didn't tell her, she like protein and give her non-vegetarian. But he didn't give one. Whatever she was given, she will reject. So in that way, everybody left and all are conscious.
There are opposite cases also we know. There's one girl, Polish. Her father only told this. Father and mother both initiated devotees. They're all congregation devotees. That girl, when from her birth, night time the mother would tell her Krishna Lila. Stories from Krishna book like that. And the girl always rejected. All goes. Never. There is no Krishna, there is no Radha. All false. It's simply something really good believe. From the time she began to speak, she started saying. Everything, all kinds of people are continuing, the souls are just continuing from, we are just recycling our bodies. Sorry, recycling the soul. Soul itself is being recycled through various bodies.
So doing like night and Bhakti and then Mangala means that one example again. I think that's this character then come like you say.
No, you're only looking at one side. If you look at the entire process of bhakti, if you carry it out properly, then the effect will come very fast. The entire process of bhakti means at least look at the first 3 verses of Upadeshamrita. The 6 urges have to be disciplined. So I accept all the 6 rules pertaining to the 6 urges. Then there are 6 activities which degrade. I have to stop those. 6 plus 6, 12. So 12 prohibitions I accept. Then there are 6 prescriptions or 6 activities which are beneficial. Out of those 6 activities which are prescriptions, there's one activity, tattva karma pravartana, that you have to engage in various activities of Bhakti Yoga. There are 64 items of sadhana. So I may accept them. So now there are 6 plus 6, 12, 12 plus 6, 18. Totally there are 18 rules. Out of 18 rules, 6 rules are do, 12 rules are don't. So out of these 18 rules, I'm following one rule. 17 rules I'm not following. So the effect is not manifest. Whereas when you look at this chart and you look at track 3, when you're talking about faith and enthusiasm and all that, we are talking of the actual Rupa Goswami's methodology. 18 means 18. 18 includes that one also. But that one by itself is not enough. All the 18 is required. It has to be airtight performance of Bhakti Yoga. Then the effect will come. Or if you are cooking, you have to cover the pressure cooker with the thing and seal it now. Otherwise, you keep everything open and you cook, then cockroach will fall and lizard will fall and everything. Then what? Then you get some funny thing nobody can eat. So that's a procedure. That's a proper procedure. You are engaging in track 2. Even track 2 is quite serious. Quite serious. Track 2 and all is quite serious. Track 2 is very serious. Track 3 is even more serious. They're all focused. Like a horse. They put this thing on. It only looks like it. They're like that. So if we follow everything properly, then the effect will come. If we don't follow properly, then it's difficult. But even that engagement in devotion service, Mangalarti and so on that they are doing, that is also coming because of some faith, some enthusiasm. So some taste is there. You cannot deny it.
But that full change of the shutter point can happen once following.
Yeah, you follow the entire airtight process. Tivra Bhakti. If you cannot accept Tivra Bhakti, track 3, then track 2. Track 2 is also quite reasonable. It's not unreasonable. What is that?
18 items for track 2 also is that.
Within Bhakti, all the 18 items are there. Whether it is first stage or second stage or third stage. But it is like this. In the first stage, you accept Bhakti as a daily duty. That's all. Okay. So Krishna consciousness is part of your life. In the second stage, Krishna consciousness is the major part of your life. In the third stage, Krishna consciousness is your only life. You don't have any other life. So initially we start by bringing Krishna into home. Then we put Krishna in the center. And then there is only Krishna, not in center also. That's all. Krishna and his associates, that's all my life. I don't have any other life. He's not even in the center. So in that way, step by step. Reasonable, not unreasonable. Okay, text 30.
For the bigger means, they will practice Kerala, but also they will engage in simple activities. So for
No. You have to give them that kind of arrangement where they can only engage in Bhakti. If they accept it. If they don't accept it, then they'll take, like Prabhupada used to say, it'll take 300 lifetimes. Go. That's all. We make it clear, this is the product we are giving. You mix it up, that's your problem.
But ultimately they have to come in this karma. If they are not, they cannot perform all that, they cannot perform Kerala. They have to do the karma. They have to karma, they have to do. If they are not doing Kerala.
That is for all of us. But we have to, first of all, let us start with that which all of us can do. We can engage in the 64 items of devotion service. Then we will be able to engage in these sattvic activities. There's 21 items are there. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will repeatedly talk about 3 modes of nature. Okay. And Shri Baladeva Bhushan explains, when Krishna talks about 3 modes of nature, the indication is, do only the sattvic thing. Give up the rajasic, tamasic thing. So you'll find, this is how you give charity, this is how you think, this is how you act, this is whom you worship. So many things Krishna will talk about. So only the sattvic things we are doing now. So that is all like those 21 items. It's like the jnana thing. So first of all, I have to engage in the activities of bhakti, which is fully transcendental by itself. Then I will develop a taste for the sattvic activities. Then you talk about these prescribed duties. That is third step. If right from the beginning, I know we start talking about it, then they will not be able to handle it. Okay, let's move on. Text 30.
मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि नियतानि असम्मते तथा दास्यन्यब्रह्मभूत्वा बुद्धस्य विगततिरः. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrender all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desire for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from all lethargic fights.
Because of this, you, a Paranishthita devotee, with knowledge concerning your nature as Atma, offering all actions to me, the Supreme Lord, just as a servant offers everything to a king, fight. You should be devoid of the concept of being the doer. As a servant dependent on the king performs actions according to the king's order. You should perform your actions according to my order with the desire to teach the people. In other words, in track 2, or from stage 2, that is also a point. You start thinking in terms of all these activities as Krishna's commandments. This is government regulation. That is why we need to do this, because it is for everyone's benefit. Just as if the king sends a commander to wage a war against a neighboring atharmic king and subjugate him, then that commander will wage a war, will do everything. But if the commander starts making his own plans, then it becomes a problem. So you do everything, but you don't make up your own plan. You just do what I've said. So that is Krishna's point. Devoid of desires for personal results, thinking that you do this only by the order of your master, devoid of possessiveness, such as the results of my actions are for me. So let us say I've been, or like Prabhupada gives this example, we'll see one example. I'll come to that. Having given up the anguish arising from thoughts of killing friends, Arjuna should fight because that is his duty as a Kshatriya. This means that those desiring liberation should follow the actions prescribed for them according to their ashram. Whereas Bhaktivinoda Thakur 30, endowed with knowledge of the truth, being spiritual minded, offer to me all your activities while giving up desire for results and material and give up material ahankar. While giving up distress, take support of fighting, which is your swadharma. Prabhupada, this verse clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties as if in military discipline. Such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. Arjuna was therefore ordered by Sri Krishna to fight as if the Lord were his military commander. So, like a soldier, he does whatever the commander says. So, like that, one should consider the Lord is his commander. One has to sacrifice everything for the goodwill of the Supreme Lord, and at the same time discharge prescribed duties without claiming proprietorship. The idea is that we should not get mixed up with all kinds of emotional masala. I did so much to my children don't even look at me now. That's not the point. The point is you did your duty as a mother. You did your duty as a mother. Correctly you did. You did everything correctly. So you are going to get Hrit Vishuddhi, purification from lust and envy. This is how those in track 1 will think. In track 2, what will they think? That I did my duty as a mother in order to set a good example for the younger girls, so that when the future they will know, oh, that Mataji, she went through a great difficulty, but she stuck to her principle. So it is for inspiring the public to carry out these duties. That is the Lord's order. The Supreme Lord, okay, Arjuna did not have to consider the order of the Lord. He had only to execute his order. The Supreme Lord is the soul of all souls. Therefore, one who depends solely and wholly on the Supreme Soul without personal consideration. Or in other words, one who is fully Krishna conscious is called Adhyatma Chaitanya. Nirashi means that one has to act on the order of the master, but should not expect fruitive results. The cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. That is the real purport of Mayi or unto me. When one acts in such Krishna consciousness, certainly it does not claim proprietorship over anything. This consciousness is called nirmama, or nothing is mine. And if there is any reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of so-called kinsmen in the bodily relationship, that reluctance should be thrown off. In this way, one may become Vigatadjvara, or without feverish mentality or lethargy. Lethargy means laziness. Everyone, according to his quality and position, has a particular type of work to discharge, and all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness as described above. So for men, we have Varnadharma, Ashramadharma. For women, we have Sri Dharma. For everything, there is a consideration of emergency or non-emergency, or rather, crisis and non-crisis. That will lead one to the path of liberation. Okay, text 31.
Ye me matam idam nityam anusthani mano Shraddhavanto Anusayanto Nischandete Api Karmabhi. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow these teachings faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of negative actions.
This Baladev, this verse indicates the supreme position of this teaching by speaking the result for those following the Lord's teaching, the secret of the Vedas. Only those men who always follow my teaching with firm faith, without having the feeling that it is a fault for one interested in liberation to participate in useless material actions, which are only a waste of time, are free from the bondage of action. Those who follow my teachings, and even those who cannot follow but have faith and also do not disrespect the teachings, even they can be free of the bondage of action. Even though at the present time they cannot follow by faith in the teachings and lack of envy or jealousy, their obstacles decrease. A little later, by performing the instructions, they become free. Those who always perform Nishkama Karma Yoga offered to the Lord and have no faith in me, without envy, attain liberation from the bondage of karma. And those who are incapable of performing this and who are without envy and have faith, they also attain the result. So this is the essence of all Vedic wisdom. And therefore, it is always true without exception. An ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. So we may be at a lower stage, we may be in stage 1. We may be thinking that, where is the hope for me? But if we do agree to progress, then Krishna will help. But if I say that, no, why I need to do all these things? I do whatever I'm doing, it's Krishna's responsibility to deliver me. It's Krishna or the Guru or this one or that one. His or her responsibility to deliver me. Then we will get nowhere. But if you are humble, you accept that, no, I will try. I will work very sincerely. And I know that Krishna will help. One has faith, then Krishna will drag that person up. 32.
Yatvatakavisu yanto nanakishtanchine matam sarvajana vinuthanstam vichinashtana chetasaham. But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, removed, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection.
This verse speaks of the fault of not following the instructions. So those who don't follow this teaching, they are cheated of all knowledge, means that they are deceived. They are not given the realization that they are hankering for. They are destroyed and they are ignorant. The flow of not being Krishna conscious is clearly stated here. As there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Executive Head, so there is certainly punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Personality of God. There is no hope of perfection of life for him. 33.
Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the world. What and inspiration accomplished.
The scriptures say that there is punishment for those who do not follow the instructions of you, the Lord of all beings. Do they not have fear of you? Even a person who knows the punishment stated in the scriptures acts according to his evil nature, his sinful impressions, which have been present since beginningless time. What then to speak of the person who does not even know about the punishment? All people follow their sinful vasanas, propensities, even though those desires destroy the very goals they pursue. Those desires destroy the very goals that they pursue. Artha, dharma, kama, and moksha. For a person devoid of association of saintly persons, even if he has knowledge of scripture, what can punishment accomplish? He will not be able to destroy the strong influence of those bad vasanas. However, by saintly association, he can destroy the sinful vasanas, even if they are very strong. I want someone to read Bhaktivinoda Thakur's remarks.
Though he has not,
33, no?
one should not think that the learning mind by using Atma from an Atma, the present feeling of material one and karma by taking the anathema will be accomplished. Though he has knowledge, bound he will act according to his nature approved over a long period of time. It is not that suddenly controlling one can give up one's nature. All the bounds you are to easily take support of their nature in the form of habits practiced for a long time. The method of giving up this nature is this. By remaining in that nature, perform all karma carefully, according to one's nature, and detachment from mind yoga. Fix in the heart the best part is karma, offered to the Lord without desire, is simultaneously both desire, meaning one's swadharma and purifying one's swadharma safely. If one gives up swadharma, the final desire is disturbance and the path. When the giver speaks by the mercy of devotee and by my mercy, having attained the method superior to his calm karma offered to me, there is no advantage in the use of maintaining swadharma. But other than this, his calm karma offered to me.
So, unless one comes to the point of spiritual realization in Krishna consciousness, he is not freed from the effects of the three modes. Krishna will talk about this 7th chapter. Even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, it's impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge or by separating the soul from the body. There are many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in the science, but inwardly or privately are completely under particular modes of nature that they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be very learned, but because of his long association with material nature, he is in bondage. Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of the material entanglement, even though one may be engaged in his prescribed duties in terms of material existence. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. Typical prescription for track 1. Until you come to the point of full Krishna consciousness, you should not give up your material duties. This is an injunction in track 1, partially applicable for track 2. No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogi or transcendentalist artificially. It is better to be situated in one's position and try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. Then one will be freed from the clutches of Krishna's Maya. 34.
They are principles, there is judgment, avoidance, pertaining to the content and their objects. One should not come under the control of such judgment and avoidance, because they are assuming blocks on the path of such realization.
If the actions of men are completely under the control of their sinful natures, then the positive and negative injunctions of scripture will be useless. Even if actions are prescribed by scripture, such things as talking to saintly persons, serving them, or going to holy places become the object of hatred, etc., since they are viewed as unfavorable or disagreeable to the individual. But even though living entities have a tendency to follow these feelings of desire and hatred, the person desiring the highest good should not fall under the control of desire and hatred, since they cause obstacles on his path. Desire and hatred are like thieves standing in front of the traveler on the road. What is stated is this: impressions, which have operated since beginningless time, give rise to such things as desire to speak to others' wives, even though it is forbidden in the scriptures. Accompanying the desire, there arises knowledge of the positive features of doing so. Absence of knowledge of anything negative in doing so. This desire makes men act. In a similar way, hatred may develop concerning speaking to saintly persons, which is prescribed in the scriptures. This hatred manifests along with knowledge that speaking to saintly persons is undesirable, and lack of knowledge of anything desirable. Thus, we will avoid that situation. In other words, we all try to justify what we are doing using the scripture itself. The scriptures which direct one to associate with the saintly persons will turn one away from and make one detest what is forbidden, even though it is pleasurable to the mind, by making one understand the undesirable consequences of the forbidden. And they will also make one have attraction for and engage in acts prescribed by scripture by making one understand their favorable results, even though they may be unpleasant for the mind. Thus, the positive and negative injunctions of scripture are not useless. So, even though the mind tells you this is not good, that is not good, this is good, that is good, it is through Shastra we actually understand, because the Shastra actually activates our buddhi, our intelligence. That see, this is factually good for you, this is actually factually bad for you. The followers of the scripture are the saints. And the spiritual master is supposed to repeat the instructions of the previous saints and Shastra. So the Shishya is supposed to keep checking this all the time. Bhakti. If you say that by accepting sense objects, it is possible that one will become more bound to sense objects and cannot be liberated from karma, then please listen. It is not that all sense objects are obstacles to the jiva. Attachment and repulsion to sense objects is the greatest enemy of the jiva. When one accepts sense objects, one must control attachment and repulsion. Then, even though one accepts all sense objects, one will not be bound by them. As long as the material body exists, one must accept sense objects. But in actions, the attraction and repulsion arising from thinking the body to be the self will gradually decrease, and you will attain detachment from the sense objects. I do not give instructions to tame the attachment and repulsion related to the Lord. Attraction to objects or actions that stimulate bhakti, and repulsion to things or actions which obstruct bhakti. But understand that I only give instructions to control attachment and repulsion related to comfort of oneself. See, the idea is this: unrestricted sense enjoyment is the cause of material engagement. But one who follows the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures does not become entangled by the sense objects. For example, sex enjoyment is a necessity for the conditioned soul, and sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties. According to scriptural injunctions, one is forbidden to engage in sex relationships with any woman other than one's wife. All other women are to be considered as one's mother. But in spite of such injunctions, a man is still inclined to have sex relationships with other women. These propensities are to be curbed. Otherwise, there will be stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. As long as the material body is there, the necessities of the material body are allowed, but under rules and regulations. One has to follow those rules and regulations unattached to them, because practice of sense gratification under regulations may also lead one to go astray, as much as there is always a chance of an accident even on the road. Krishna's basic point is this. See, there are rules in the Vedic scriptures which tell you, you can do this, you can not do that, please do this, please don't do that. Don't just depend on that. Don't just depend on the allowances, prescriptions, prohibitions, of the karma shastras, of these material duties, because the propensity for sinful enjoyment has been going on for millions of lifetimes. So any moment you get a little bit of sense gratification, you may just jump into the sinful version of it also. So therefore, don't depend on it. So you accept the rules and regulations of karma with great care, not very freely, casually, with great delight. Because it's just, see, karma is just one step above adharma. It is just one step above adharma. And in both karma and in adharma, there is a common feature. Both of them allow sense enjoyment. In karma, you get restricted sense enjoyment. In adharma, you get unrestricted sense enjoyment. But when you accept the regulations of karma, do so with sufficient warning and care and caution. One has to be very, very careful. And yet we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. Although they may be very carefully maintained, no one can guarantee that there will be no danger even on the safest road. The sense enjoyment spirit has been current a very long time owing to material association. Therefore, in spite of regulative sense enjoyment, there is every chance of falling down. Therefore, any attachment for regulative sense enjoyment must also be avoided by all means. But attachment to Krishna consciousness or acting always in the loving service of the Lord detaches one from all kinds of sensory activities. Therefore, no one should try to be detached from Krishna consciousness at any stage of life. So one should not think that karma dharma, jnana dharma, bhakti dharma, all of them are on the same platform. Ultimately speaking, that which is meant to be increased has to be given more priority. We are meant to increase bhakti. Even here, even over lifetimes, we are at least meant to increase our engagement in sadhana. Whereas karma, even though it is allowed, Prabhupada keeps saying it is just a license. Just a license. What does it mean? It means, first of all, you are not supposed to do anything. We are just giving some freedom. If you want, you can accept it. Now you are demanding more and more and more. First of all, I should not have given you anything. Then on top of it, now I have given you. And now you want more. So karma, it should always be understood to be something which should be accepted. Minimal, with a spirit of minimalism. The Prabhupada gives this example. It's like salt. When you have food and you may need some salt, so you take some salt. But you don't put a mountain of salt. Just take a little bit of salt. That's all. Okay, you need salt. Without salt, there's no taste. Fine. So you need some sense enjoyment. So we give you a little bit of sense enjoyment in the form of Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma, Sri Dharma. Okay. So only that much. That's it. Now don't ask for more and more and move towards adharma. Don't get into that. On the other hand, you can do more and more of bhakti. That is fine. That is welcome. More and more you do. Therefore, in the 64 items of bhakti, we are encouraged to do more and more of them. The more we do, the better it is. But with karma, the less we do, the better it is. Adharma gets zero. Zero adharma. Karma as less as possible. Therefore, the second stage of practice of Krishna consciousness is very, very proper. You see, zero adharma, minimal karma, maximum bhakti. This particular ratio is very, very reasonable. A very reasonable ratio. Spend most of your time in devotional service now. So in Prabhupada's methodology, we see how Prabhupada has implemented this. He has allowed grihasthas to live in the temple. And those who are living in the temple are expected to be on the second stage at least. Maximum focus is devotional service. Karma, okay, you get something. That's it. You get something like salt, you get a little bit. But if you want that more, then you have to be staying outside, not be dependent on the temple financially. You can be. Prabhupada himself says, if you want to live comfortably, then you get a job from some company or something. That you stay also. Don't stay inside the movement and become a financial burden. Everybody's got their place. So we have to be careful about this. The whole purpose of detachment from all kinds of sense attachment is ultimately to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness. So there is no question of being cautious about how much bhakti to do. Rather, we should be cautious about how much karma to do. That much Krishna is seeing. Okay, we'll stop with that. We'll receive my calendar.
How one gives his body also
Sorry? What?